Okay, all right. So in this class, we'll study data hazard and how to handle data hazard. Uh, uh, that and then data hazard for load type of instructions. Okay. So so far, what we have studied is that in pipeline data path, we cannot execute instruction as it is because there can be some dependency between instruction and over the use of a resource. That's what we call a structured hazard. Over data, it means that is data required for the next instruction is yet not available because the previous instruction will generate the data. That's what we call as data hazard. And then there can be branch instructions. Okay, and then in if branch instruction is true, for example, then the control will go to, or next instruction executed will be some at some address. It's not the next address in the sequence, right? So again, pipeline needs to do something. Okay, all right. So with this understanding, let's start. Uh, okay, let's also revise something that we have studied earlier. Structured hazard we can see in this case over use of a register. Okay, in load instruction as well as in subtract instruction, register is being used. Now we can still manage this kind of hazard if writing of register is happens earlier than the reading. So the subtract instruction is reading the register while load instruction is writing the register. Since load happens or writing happens earlier than reading in register file, then this is okay. However, if we okay okay, in order to avoid this kind of hazard or dependency, we can have a register file that have multiple read port. uh, okay, so multiple data values can be read at a time. At the same time, writing can be done. All right, so this we have seen, and then we have seen we can also have instruction cache and data cache. Okay, so okay, because some instructions, while instruction is fetching something, okay, at the same time previous instruction might be, or maybe uh, one of the instruction earlier, it may be writing into the memory. So when memory reading and writing happens at the same time, then use of cache will help us, okay, to avoid that kind of dependency. All right, so far we have studied is that uh, structure hazard can happen, and then it will result in conflict of use of resources. Okay, and for example, for single memory, and we have seen that we can use caches for that. All right, now let's move into data hazard, wherein there is a data dependency. Okay, when a data hazard happens when a planned instruction cannot execute in proper clock cycle because data that is needed to execute the instruction is yet not available. Okay, the example is as follows, right? This is a very simple example. We are doing add instruction, or okay, this add instruction which is adding x0 and x1, and result is going to x19. In the next instruction we are using x19. Okay, so now this operation is happening before the actual writing is done in the previous instruction, right? So the data that we intend to use in this instruction from register 19 is yet not available. Okay, so this kind of hazard or this kind of dependency, we call it data dependency. Okay, all right, so this is one such example. Look at the instruction sequence. Okay, uh, okay, there are 5 instructions. First instruction add T0 T1, T2 means that contents of register T1 and T2 are added to register T0. Then second instruction or logical or T4, T5 going to T3. Do you see any dependency here between the two? No, these are independent instructions. Okay. Third is SLT, set on less than T0, T3. The contents of T0 is compared with contents of T3, and if T0 is less than T3, then output should be 1, or T6 will contain 1. Now here, can you see the dependency here? It's using T0 here, and that is coming out of here. Okay, the first instruction is resulting into contents of T0 is getting modified, and then that we are using in third instruction. Okay, and then we are using T3 here in the next instruction. You are using the memory location that's given by 4 added to contents of T3, that gives a memory address. That value of T3 is coming from second instruction here. Now we will have to see whether what's the dependency. Okay, so here we can see T0 is written here in the first instruction, while we are using just a minute. Okay, this instruction, all right. Okay, this instruction is using T0. Contents of T0s are getting stored in this location. All right. So okay. So there is so the third instruction, just a minute. I mean, let's analyze it. Uh, do you see any dependency here? T0 between T0 in this instruction, SLT, and here? Is the value of T0 is available here, wherein we are using the value of T0 in third instruction here at this point here. Okay. All right. So this may also result into a conflict. Okay, the dependency is there. And also at this point, that is fourth instruction, do you see any issue here? So the value of T0 that's available here at this point, okay, because writing, the shaded portion shows the writing is happening, right? And the second part here, we can read this value. So T0 is already updated and we can do the reading now. So this is okay. So it means that now if reading and writing is happening onto the same register, then uh, we can manage in this way. Okay. However, we can see that there is a problem here, right? Because the value of T0 is still not available. All right. So even in this case, wherein we are reading and writing, this T0 is being written, which is used in instruction store word. So we are writing, so we are reading here while we are writing in the first section is okay sometimes, but it's not always okay, because if we are using very high frequency design where the clock cycle is very small, reading and writing cannot be done in this way. All right. Any question? This example highlights only register reading and writing at the same time when using same register. However, uh, this also very clearly says that it might not always be possible to write then read in the same cycle when cycle time is very small. Okay. All right. Any question? However, this we have seen that we are still using T0 much before its actual value is available. So this may result into wrong result, right? Because it's not available. So we need to do something about it. Okay. All right. Let's take another example. Okay. Let's look at this instruction, right? A sequence of instructions. Now on the top we have value of S0. S0 is a register. Okay. Initially it has value of 5. So we can see the value of 5 here, right in the beginning. Okay. First instruction is at S0, then T0 and T1. Okay. When is the result of this available? At the end. Okay. So at the last cycle is write back, right? Write back into register. So we can see that it's available here. Okay. The next instruction is subtract T0, sorry, subtract T2, S0 and T0. Okay. And now we are using the value of S0 that's come that, and the semantic says that is the S0 that's available from the first instruction, right? So when are we using S0? We are using S0 right here at this point when we are doing register reading. Okay, here we are reading S0 and also T0. So we can see that data is available later. So this is available at this point in time. Value of S0 is available here while we are using it at this point when the time is going this way, right? This is a time axis. Okay. And we can see there might be some other conflicts here. We are using OR S0. So now we are using here also S0, value of S0. Okay, so and then we are using S0 as well here in this section at this point here. Okay, and then we are storing, again we are using S0 in the last instruction, wherein we are storing the value that we have calculated in previous instruction. Okay, and into a memory location. So we are doing the reading here. So okay, so the value of S0 after execution of first instruction is 9. 9 is the correct thing, right? But if we execute as it is this instruction sequence, then the second instruction will take the value of 5. Okay, because this S0 value is 5. Only after completion of first instruction the correct value is available, which is 9. So all these instructions, the second, third, fourth, fifth, at least second, third, fourth are using wrong value of yes, second and third of course are using the wrong value. Fourth, so you can see that this value of S0 is ideally should have been coming here, and also it should come here. Now at this point time when we are using it in this instruction, the correct value is available. So if cycle time is large for writing to happen and same time reading to happen one after other, then this should be okay. So this is okay, it's shown as green. Okay, and also the next one is okay, this is okay. Okay, however these two with the shown with the red are wrong. Okay, you got it? Shall I show it again, simulation? Okay, let me show you simulation again. So this is what it is. So we are using value of S0 here that's being generated at this point, and also we are using here. So these two values, so in this two instruction we are using the old value because this value is not available. The correct value is available only in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth cycle. Okay, so these two values will be wrong, wherein other places the value will be correct. So this is correct value we are using, correct value, and these two are wrong values. Then what can we do? When this is going to happen very often, so we need to resolve this. Okay, very simple solutions are available. It's simplest possible is that you insert a no op in between, right? Here you insert one. So you see the difference in cycles here. So it's available after say 2 cycles. Okay, so then what you can do is you can insert here 2 NOP operations. It will do nothing. Okay, NOP is nothing. I mean, it's a 5 cycle thing, but it will do nothing. So now after delay of 2 cycle, result will be available for sub instruction to use. Okay, that's very simplest way of doing things. That now compiler can see that dependency between add instruction and subtract instruction. It knows that value S0 is being used in the next instruction and the following instruction. Then it can do very simple thing is to insert between these instruction NOP wherever they are needed. Okay, are you there? Are you understanding it? Okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
So, but this will increase number of cycles. Right?
Of course,
Number of
yes.
clock cycles, this will increase.
Yes, of course. So there is a penalty. Yeah, surely, very right. Good. This will slow down things, but results will be correct. So, we are by pipelining, what are we doing? We are trying to increase efficiency. Okay, we are increasing throughput. Now, of course, I mean, there will be some instances where pipeline has to be stalled or NOP operation has to be inserted. We are very correct. So we want to avoid this as much as possible, right? Now, let's look at the second solution. Rearrange code at the compile time. Can we do that? So for example, in the previous one, we know there's a dependency. We know S value is being used here. And if there are some instruction, set of instruction that is totally independent of the data values being generated here. For example, we can say add say S1, S2, S3. Okay, and then we can have some other instruction, right? Some even load store instruction which are not using any of these data values. Then can we take these instructions which are not dependent to here between add and subtract, or maybe between at some other places. Okay, so we can rearrange code at the compile time and try to avoid this kind of data dependency and data hazard. Okay, third is the forward data and the runtime. We'll see how we can actually rather than waiting till fifth stage for data to be available, if the data is available from ALU at least 2 cycles before, because it's available and then there's a memory cycle and then write back cycle, then can we use that data? Okay, and if nothing works, then we have to stall the processor at runtime. Okay, so here is graphical representation of instruction pipeline. We'll use this, and you can see that we are not using here, we are not showing here registers in between stages, right? So like earlier we have been showing here registers, so we can we can use this diagram as well. Okay, so you can note here the shaded portion. Okay, this is portion, this portion. Okay, it means that we are reading. Okay, if shaded, while the same register file, you can see shaded portion on the left hand side, the here, it means that something we are writing. Okay, All right. Similarly here instruction fetch is happening, so we are showing it on the right hand side. Okay, something that is filled in or dark is, it means the data is going there. So like this element has data, it means in pipeline we are using this. Similarly, there is a data, it means that a dark part is here, then we can say that we are using here. We are also using this one. Now there is nothing, it's all clean. So we know that in add instruction we don't use memory, so it's a light. We are not using dark color here. Okay. Similarly here in the last instruction. So this is kind of representation. Okay. So first solution is that the compile time insert NOP, no op, right? This is what we have discussed earlier. So instruction sequence is simple: add T0 T1 and move it to S0. So S0 T0 T1, okay, and then subtract T2 S0 T3, okay. Now we know that there is a dependency here. So value of S0 is becoming in fifth cycle, wherein we are using this reading in the second cycle. Okay, when we second cycle is what? Instruction decode and register fetch, okay, or register read. So we are doing it second cycle. It means now we need to insert two NOPs. Okay, so we have we can see that because here the result is available while we are using in this stage, right? So had we started it here and at this place, as we have seen earlier, then result would have been wrong. So we can insert NOP here. So this represent NOP, which is nothing but we are showing as a bubble. Okay, it means that the NOP is also of 5 cycles. Now what is the issue here? See, we have discussed this point that when we design ISA, then what is below that interface should not be known to programmers or anybody who is using it, ISA, right? Now, how will you insert bubble at compile time? Because compiler should know the structure of the pipeline. Okay, so that is one issue. But you know, for you can see the beauty of RISC is that is very simple. Okay, at even when we decode instruction, we can actually find out in runtime that there is a dependency. Okay, while in case of Intel instruction set, it is not so simple, you know, because here all instructions are of the same size. Okay, and opcode is almost at the is at the same area, same portion. So then decoding is very simple. Wherein in case of Intel, you know, the instructions vary in sizes. Okay, uh, and then there are, you know, writing, for example, here what the writing that we are doing, register writing, is happening only once in instruction. Okay, last phase is doing writing, where in case of Intel, writing may happen at any stage. Okay, so when you also, you know, when you try to look at instruction, I will give you an assignment to you wherein you need to compare both Intel, you need to read about x86 architecture and also RISC-V, which you know, you need to compare the both. Okay, so then you will realize that how simple is the job of, you know, pipeline designer or data part designer uh, in case of RISC. All right, let's move ahead, right? Okay, so we have this solution. We have seen that we can compiler can insert bubble. Second is, of course, compiler can rearrange instruction, that we have already discussed some time back. Some instructions which are independent, you know, we can move them up. Okay, so this we'll show it using this example. Let's assume that there are two statements in C, and then RISC code for that looks something like this. Load value of A in register T1, because the T1 is stored in some memory location, and then load the value of B. So this represents A, this represents B, okay, which is at 4 locations away, 4 bytes away. So it comes to T2. Then we are doing addition of T1 and T2, and results is getting into T3. Then we have storing the result of T3 into this location, which is given by this address. And then we are doing load, add, and then store word. Okay, so we can see that there is some problem here, right? So this is one dependency, T2, that we are loading from memory is available after few cycles, because next cycle here, next instruction is using register value T2. Okay, so the value of T2 here is yet not written in previous instruction. And there is, so we need to, now here we'll have to have stall, or we'll have to have, we have to hold the pipeline. Okay, if we, until this value of T2 is available. Okay, that's one solution. Okay, all right. And similarly, there's dependency between T4. Here we are using loading the value of T4, and that value is yet not available, though we are trying to use it in the next instruction here. Very similar to earlier case. Okay, again we need to put a stall here, and pipeline will be frozen for some time until the value is available. Okay, now can we rearrange these instructions? Can you see that some instructions are totally independent? Okay, so these two load instructions we can do, because there is no dependency between the two. Can we bring this load instruction here also to the top? Okay, and we can see that we can do a lot of manipulations like that. So compiler knows that, compiler can read ahead, and it's done a static time. Compiler has enough time to find do all these activities, right? Okay, so the compiler will create the sequence as follows. So it will do first two instructions remain the same. Third instruction becomes load load T4 8T0. This instruction goes up, right? The instruction that we have shown here comes, and then we have SW. We are doing next instruction is store. Okay, because T3 is available, right? Yeah. Okay, same cycle we can, okay, T3 result will be available. And then we can do add, because this add was causing, it was causing stall. So this add comes here after third load. And then this last one, which was also causing stall, comes here. And then we can do last SW, because result of this is used here for storage. And so add and SW combination does not cause any conflict or data dependency. Okay, any question? All right, so so this solution that we have discussed of code rescheduling is always not possible. Okay, sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible, right? And it uh, so the cases is possible, compiler may want to do it, but very often it's not possible to reorganize, and so we need to do something else. Okay, so here if you look at it, this is a previous example. Okay, the result of this addition is available here. Okay, while we are using at these two places. Okay, so actually the value of this T0 is going to ALU. So then question is that why not take the value, rather than waiting till end, when value is available into register. Okay, why can't we take the value right from here as soon as the value of T0 is available? Okay, can we do this? Yes, we can do this. It's called forwarding. Of course, you know, the data will continue to go in this way, but we can also have a direct input to the ALU of the you know, same ALU, of course, I mean, for the next instruction. Okay, and similarly we can you know, the same T0 value is available can come here. Okay, so now we can take it from this stage here. I will just redo it. Okay, so this we know, so we can forward the value, in the green line shows, you know, forwarding here. As soon as the value is available, it can go to input of ALU for the next instruction, and then we can forward the same value from this register to the you know, for use in subtract instruction. All right, so it concept is that rather than waiting till end when the value is available in register, create a path for the value to be used much earlier, as soon as value is available. Now this will of course complicate design. Okay, we'll have to have more more controls are required to control this kind of forwarding. Okay, so it adds complexity, but it's very often used. The concept is then grab operand from pipeline stage rather than register file. So we can, as soon as result is available out of ALU computation, etc., or memory operation or whatever, use it rather than waiting it for return to be registered, because all instruction, if you see, result into writing into register. Okay, all right, so let's look at this concept. Okay, to use the result when it is computed. Okay, don't wait for it to be stored in a register, so don't wait for, you know, it goes up to this point. However, it will require the extra connections like this. Okay, and also require control, because this movement is to be controlled from somewhere, right? So we need extra controls. So okay, all right, any question? Is it okay? Aditi, you are there?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
समझ में आ गया?
Sir, yes, sir, ये समझा.
Okay, all right, let's move ahead then. Okay, so how can we detect the need for forwarding then? Okay, again, we can do it in following way. Compare the destination of older instruction in the pipeline with the sources of the new instruction in decode stage. Okay, so destination of previous instruction is this one, and the source is here. So if we can do this kind of analysis, then we can do the forwarding, right? So this so by analyzing this instruction even at runtime, we'll know that we can do the forwarding. Okay, all right. So now we can attach this forwarding path depending on various combination of instructions which can, where the data dependencies, we can add this kind of extra paths, like, you know, the one here you see, output of ALU will be taken in, right? So output of ALU is taken in and it goes to input of ALU. Okay, this shows in the This is basically for the example we have just had it earlier, this one, right? Okay. Or we can have another one coming out of memory, take the output of memory, and then it can also go into ALU. Okay, instead of reading it, reading it goes to register and then reading, we can avoid that. Okay, so these are the two paths that are shown in this uh, diagram. There can be many more. So this is just only for illustration, and then we will have this forwarding control as part of regular control, and it will of course get inputs from instructions. So basically two arrows here shows that we are looking only of two instructions, dependency in two instruction, and then generating control signals to control movement of this kind of data right here. Whether we need to select it or not, it depends on relationship between uh, between these two instructions, data dependency between the two instructions, right? So this is only for illustration. Actual design will be much more complex. All right, any question? Okay, let's look at the next. So now let's look at the load instruction. So we have case here which says load word T0 from memory location 0 T1. Okay, this gives the address of the memory, and we are loading the contents of that memory is T0. The next instruction we are using T0, and then we are doing subtracting operation. Okay, now T0 is being used here. If you look at it, even if we use forwarding, right? So T0 is being available here. Okay, while we are using it at this point here. Okay, so what we say is that, so forwarding that we have seen earlier cannot resolve this issue. Okay, so there can be instruction combination where forwarding is not a solution. So hence we must install the instruction dependent on load, and then forward after load is done. Okay, so now solution of this is that we need to stall the pipeline for one cycle and then do the and then reading can be done. All right, so it's like this. So we need to, here the value of T0 is not available, we are using it, so we need to stall the pipeline for one cycle, or we have one. So stalling is essentially means that the output of previous stage is not available. Okay, and then we need, of course, as we discussed earlier, we need some control signal even for stalling. Okay, so now we create a bubble, and now if you do forwarding, then it's okay. All right, so we can use combination of this bubble and forwarding to get the answer, or so at this point in time now result is available and it can be forwarded from here. Okay, all right. All right, the slot after load is called load delay slot, or we are shown here is a bubble. Okay, or is stall, and it's equivalent to NOP. All right, and all this results in performance loss. The NOP is similar to LOP, but is done in hardware. Okay, NOP is done. NOP instruction are inserted by compiler, while stalls are done in the hardware in real time. Okay, it's called hardware interlock. All right. Okay. This is another example. Of course, it's from different book. So you can see there is a difference in notations. RF here is a register fetch, a register read, right? So same as instruction fetch. Instruction fetch, register read. Okay. Both are in earlier diagram we show this as a instruction fetch, but here because in RISC we have instruction fetch and register read are part of the same cycle. Okay, so now we can see that instruction here load word s1 load into s1 contents of this location, and then we are using s1. So result is so there is a data dependency. If you don't do anything, then it's wrong. Okay, so and similarly same thing we are using here. Okay, and that is also causing it a problem. So this answers your question which you pointed out. You're right, there is a dependency out there. Okay, so it's not that instructions or sequence are correct out there. Okay, so now what we can do, we can install the pipeline to basically these two stages RF and IM for one cycle. Okay, for two instructions here. Okay, all right. So now as a result of that installing, now if we do forwarding, then answer will be correct. Okay, it will get the right values. All right. Any question? Stalling means essentially stopping the movement of data for the particular stage. Okay, so if we install these two, it means that we are not doing anything until the time the output is available here, and then the value can be forwarded. All right. Okay, any question? Okay, and here we have stalling hardware. So we can see that at the bottom these are shown here as a stalling signals, right? And these can be generated in control logic, which corresponds to this which is essentially for stalling hardware. Okay, and then if you enable this signal, so we can freeze this. You won't let data to move further, right? Similarly, you can see at every stage there is stalling, the control signals corresponding to stalling, right? Here for example one, something should also be, I don't know where is it going. Anyway, so we'll have to really look into this in detail to see how, what is the interplay. In fact, the book beautifully covers this concept, right? I'm talking about Patterson-Hennessy book. However, I don't want to get into design of how do we generate the control signal for stalling and forwarding. Well, it's not very difficult. We'll have to look at some instruction relationships, and then based on that create a combination logic circuit, right? So to generate control signals both for forwarding and stalling. Okay, and of course it will take couple of classes, so I will not keep this as a part of syllabus because we need to cover other topics as well, right? So but this should give you sufficiently good idea about how pipelines actually work, and movement of data within pipeline is not as simple as we think. It's not same as the laundry pipeline we have seen earlier. Okay, uh, so because of some resources are being used, there's a contention of use of resources between instructions, and also there's a data dependency between instructions, right? So this causes pipeline design to be little complex. And then we have seen the solution, two solutions. One first is that use of NOP, okay, that compiler will do. Second is the rearrangement of instructions such that some instruction which are independent can move forward. Okay, and third, we have seen if nothing works, then we have to stall the pipeline. Okay, and of course we can use combination of stalling as well as forwarding. Okay, we have seen examples of all of these. Now I have to ask you a very simple question. Look at this code sequence and tell whether there is a stall or there is no stall, and if there is stall, then can we solve it with forwarding? Okay, Mananjan, you are there?
Yes, sir.
हाँ बताओ भाई. देखो डिपेंडेंसी है नहीं है, वेरी सिंपल.
Sir, I don't think there will be any stalling.
Yeah, you say with confidence. There is no stall. There is no data dependency, All right. So you look at this. We are using all T0. Here we are using T1, and result is T1 is available in first cycle. It's the first instruction itself, right? So there's no data dependency. All right. Good. Okay. Now here, tell me. Look at this code sequence. What are we doing? Register T0 is added to register T, the content of T0, and is moving to T1. Of course, we can see the notation here is slightly different because it comes from MIPS. So anyway, you read this as a T0, just ignore $sign. Okay, so tell me now which one of these is true, A, B, or C? So look, these two instructions are independent, right? We are using T0, but T0 is not here. Had it been T1, there is a dependency. So these two instructions are independent. This one here, T1 we are using, so this comes from. So now you see, and now you draw the diagram and see whether we can solve this with forwarding. Okay, anybody? Okay, answer is yes, we can solve this forwarding. And here, this example we have already done, load followed by a register operation, and we cannot do anything, but we'll have to stall. So we will stall the pipeline. Okay, all right. To summarize, hazards potentially limit performance, right? And pipeline designs are not as simple as laundry pipeline that we have discussed. Okay, there can be data dependency, there can be other, there can be contention for use of resource. Okay, and as a result of that, we need to solve this by many methods. We have seen NOP, we have seen use of rearrangement of instructions, we have seen the data forwarding, and if none of these work, then we have to stall the pipeline stages. Okay, for example, load followed by a add or subtract instruction. The most important thing is the semantics of the program should remain the same, whatever manipulation we are doing. At the top of ISA, we have visibility only about the instruction. Okay, and that semantics has to be maintained, right? So one Neumann architecture in principle must be honored at the top. At the bottom, you can do all this manipulation of data forwarding or rearrangement or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Okay, as long as the results are correct or semantics of the program is managed, right? Okay. All right. That's all about the class today. Any question? So coming back to the one which we were discussing here, where we had a confusion whether it's a stall or not, we can solve this problem with forwarding. Of course, rearrangement alone will not work in this case.